Let's take a look at this problem and see how we can use decision tree to analyze this problem. Before you see my solution, I will encourage you to try to build a tree and analyze it on your own. Before I share my solution with you, I encourage you to try to solve it on your own. To solve a problem like this, there are 3 steps. First, you build a tree from left to right. Second, you provide the payoffs. Third, you fold it back from right to left. Now let's start building the tree. To build a tree, all you need to follow is the so-called sequence of events, which simply means the sequence in which events unfold. There are 2 kinds of events that we want to mark in a tree. First, decisions. Second, uncertainties. So basically, all you need to do is to read the problem, understand the context, and start asking yourself, so what is the first event to take place? In this problem, it says that at the beginning of year 1, you're going to choose between investing $100 on a stock or a mutual fund. Okay, here's a keyword, choose. That means you're making a decision. And that's the very first event in this problem. So I'm going to use a square to represent a decision. You always use a square to represent a decision. And this decision has 2 options. One is to invest in a stock. The other is to invest on a mutual fund. So I'm going to use 2 branches out of this square to represent the 2 options. So one for stock, the other for mutual fund. If you read the problem, it also says that if you choose to invest on the mutual fund, you will pay $1 as the management fee. I'm going to mark -1 over here next to mutual fund just to remind myself that if I choose mutual fund, there's a fee of $1 that's going to be incurred. I use -1 because in the end, I'm going to make my decision based on my profitability, my cash balance. So -1 simply means there's a cost. Okay, once you have a tree, you have branches like this. What you need to do is to follow each branch and ask yourself, so what's the next event? Let's take a look at the first branch, when you invest on the stock. When you invest on the stock, it says that the return from the investment depends on the market outcome. The market could be good or bad with probability 0.4 for the good market. So what that tells me is the next event is something I cannot control, the market outcome. So it means it's an uncertainty. So I'm going to use a circle to represent uncertainty. Okay, and I know there are 2 possible outcomes from this uncertainty, good market or bad market. So I'm going to use 2 branches out of this circle to represent those options, those possible outcomes. First, it could be a good market. And what I know is in a good market, my stock value will increase by $8. Okay, so I'm going to write 8 over here just to remind myself when the market is good, the value of my investment goes up by 8. The other outcome is a bad market. In that case, it says that your stock value goes down by 5. So I'm going to put -5 here to remind myself the value goes down. And also, whenever you have an uncertainty, you need to provide the probabilities for each possible outcome. For the good market, it says the probability is 0.4. So I'm going to write 0.4 here. There are only 2 outcomes, so that naturally means the probability for the other outcome is 1 minus 0.4, therefore 0.6 here. Okay, so what's next? Let's pick a branch and ask ourselves, so what's next? Let's take a look at this one. If it is a good market, okay, then what? Well, it says that by the end of year 1 or at the beginning of year 2, you can choose to keep investing on the stock or to sell the stock. Okay, so here's the keyword again. You can choose. That means it's a decision. So if I find out it's a good market in year 1, the next thing I can do is a decision. Next event is a decision to choose between selling the stock or keep investing it. So that means I have two options. One, to sell the stock. Second, to keep the stock. So that's why I have two branches. Okay, again, I pick a branch and ask myself, so what's next? So let's say we sell the stock. What happens next? Well, it says that if you sell the stock, you will keep the cash and nothing will happen in year 2. So I know there's no more further event in this branch. So that's the end of this branch. Now let me move on to the other branch here. If I keep to invest on this stock in year 2, what happens? Well, it says that, well, it depends on the market, whether it's good or bad, you get different returns. So that means, again, the next event is an uncertainty, which is the market outcome, which could be good or bad. So that means I have two possible outcomes. First, good market, and in that case, it says still the value of my stock will increase by $8. So I'm going to put 8 here. Second outcome is a bad market. In that case, it says the value of the stock goes down by 5. So I put -5 here to remind myself. And again, it's a circle. It's an uncertainty. Don't forget to put the probabilities of the possible outcomes. So it's 0.4 and 0.6 again over here. So now I have these two branches. I ask myself if there's any further event after the good or bad market outcomes. Well, it turns out no, that's the end of the story. Okay, that's the end of year 2. So no more further event. So I know that's it. So I can move on to the next branch. Let's take a look at this one. If you invest on the stock and the market turns out bad in the year 1, then what's next? Well, actually, if you follow the problem, you will find out, well, it's the same. Year 2, you still make the same decision between selling the stock or to keep investing on it. And if you sell it, then that's it. If you keep investing on it, then just like the other option, okay, you still face the uncertainty on market outcome. So market could be good or bad. This is the return when it is good. This is the outcome of bad, and you get this, you lose this much money if it's bad. Probabilities are the same for the two possible outcomes. Now, what happens if you invest on the mutual fund? First of all, you will generate a management fee of $1. And then it says that, well, there are two possible outcomes. Your fund will be locked in for 2 years, and by the end of year 2, there are two possible outcomes. Okay, so that means there's an uncertainty with two outcomes. It says, well, the first good outcome is the value of your investment goes up by 4. Okay, I'm going to put 4 here. The other unfortunate outcome is your value goes down by 2. Okay, so -2 over here. And it says the chance of having the good outcome is 0.7, which means the chance of bad outcome is 1 minus 0.7, so that's 0.3. So at this point, we built the structure of the tree to represent the same problem. That's a very first step. This is the step 1. Step 2, we need to provide the payoffs of each possible outcome. So each branch here represents a final possible outcome. We need to provide the payoffs. What is the payoff? The payoff is something you try to measure. In this problem, we try to measure your profit by the end of year 2, and you try to maximize it. So we're going to put your profit over here as a payoff. How do we get here? Well, you get here by investing in the stock, market turns out to be good, and then you sell it. So in this case, along this path, the value of your stock goes up by 8, and then you sell it. So that means you make a profit of $8. Okay, good. So I'm going to put 8 here. Next one. How do you get here? Well, you get here by invest on the stock, market turn out to be good, and then you keep the stock, and then market turns out to be good again. So along this path, you generate $8 as the profit in year 1 and then generate another $8 as profit in year 2. So that means your total profit is 16. And you probably start to see the rhythm. All I'm doing here is finding out the numbers, the profit or cost generated along the path and then add them up. Yes, that's true. We're going to do that for all of the branches. Next one. How do we get here? Well, you invest in stock, market is good. You keep the stock, market is bad. So you generate $8 in profit in year 1 and then you lose $5 in year 2. So total profit is 8 plus minus 5, so it's 3. Next one. Similarly, let's see how you get there. You go there by this path, and the only profit or loss you generate is this minus 5, so payoff is minus 5. Next one. You lose $5 in year 1. You decide to keep the stock and then you earn another 8 in year 2. So that means the total earning, your total profit is 3. Next one. Similarly, minus 5, so minus 10. Next one. You incur $1 in management fee and the market is good and you get $4. So that means payoff is 4 minus 1, 3. Last one, minus 1, minus 2, so adding up minus 3. So this is step 2. You got the payoffs. Okay, now we have the tree, we have the payoff. Now we get into the third step, folding back. Now we need to fold back the tree, analyze it to find out the best course of actions. When you fold back the tree, you fold it back from right to left. Okay? You build a tree from left to right, but you fold it back in the reverse order. So from right. So what are we going to do? What we're going to do now is to analyze the so-called EV, expected value of the payoff of each node. A node is simply the square or the circle in the graph. Just for convenience, I'm going to label those nodes. Okay, so I label them just for convenience. And now let me analyze, let's say, node 1. Okay, I need to start from the node to the right where they do not have any further nodes. Okay, so we need to start analyzing the tree with any node that doesn't have any other nodes to their right. Okay, for node 1, so what does that mean? This node means if I invest on the stock, market turns out to be good, then I also keep the stock, then that's where we are. At this point, you have two possible outcomes. Market could be good or bad. Okay? And you get different values, you get different payoffs for those two outcomes. So what is your expected value of payoff at this point? Well, expected value is simply probability times value plus probability times value. Let me write it here. Okay? It comes out 8.2. And you know what? Let me copy that 8.2 over here. So what does this 8.2 mean? Well, we know it's expected value, but what does it mean? What is its interpretation? It means if you end up here, if you choose to invest in the stock, market turns out to be good, and you keep investing it in the second year, then on average, your payoff will be 8.2. Okay? You don't know the outcome of the market, but on average, from this point onward, your average profit in the long run is $8.2. That's the interpretation of this number. Now, let me move on to node 2. Okay, it's quite similar. So let's find out the expected value of the payoff of this node, which is 0.4 times 3 plus 0.6 times minus 10. And it comes out minus 4.8. Let me copy this number over here. Okay, again, it means that if you end up here, if you invest on the stock, market's bad, you keep the stock, then on average, your payoff or your profit going forward is minus $4.8. So again, this number summarizes your payoff from this note onward. Now let me move on to note 3. Note 3 is a square. Square means you make a decision. So what is a decision? Well, decision means you choose one of the following options. In this case, you have two options. So you're going to choose the better one. So let's compare them. If you sell the stock, you get $8. If you keep the stock, then going forward, on average, you will get $8.2. $8.2 is higher than $8. So the profit here is higher than the profit here. So that means you're going to choose to keep the stock. So I'm going to check it just to remind myself. And also I'm going to move this 8.2 over here so that I know if I ever get to this point and I need to make the decision, then I know the average payoff going forward under my best decision, which is keeping the stock, will be $8.2. Let me say it again. That means if I ever get here, my expected payoff going forward under the best decision is this number. Okay. Next, let me move on to note 4. It's quite similar to note 3. It's a decision, it's a square, so all I need to do is to compare its options and choose the better one. Selling stock is a -5 in payoff. Keeping the stock has an average payoff of -4.8. So this number is larger than this number, which means keeping stock is a better option. So I'm going to check it and copy this number over here as well. Okay, now I can move on to note number 5. Note number 5 is a circle, which means it's an uncertainty. Okay, if the outcome is a good market, that means my expected payoff going forward is 8.2. If it's a bad market, my expected profit going forward is this number. So my expected payoff at note 5 is simply this times this plus this times this, which comes out 0.4. So I'm going to copy that 0.4 over here. So that means if I invest on the stock, then on average, my final profit by the end of year 2 will be $0.4. Now let's move on to note number 6. It's similar. It's an uncertainty. It's a circle with two outcomes. So the EV is simply 0.7 times 3 plus 0.3 times -3, which comes out 1.2. So I'm going to copy that number here. So that's the EV for note 6. Now finally, I can move on to the first decision, choosing stock or mutual fund. So again, it's a square, so that means we compare the EV of the following branches. If you go for stock, the EV is 0.4. If you go for mutual fund, the EV is 1.2. So apparently, investing on mutual fund gives you a higher EV. And again, what does this 1.2 mean? It means if you invest on the mutual fund, by the end of year 2, you will earn on average $1.2. Okay? So I'm going to check this branch because it's a better one and copy 1.2 over here to notify myself. You know what? The expected payoff or the expected profit in this case under the best decision, which is this one, will be $1.2. And that completes the analysis of the tree.